In today's world, from the moment we can think for ourselves, we are constantly encouraged, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully, to define who we are. We are told to build a solid identity, to shape a personal image, to find a label that fits, and then to cling to it as though it were the anchor of our very existence. We grow up believing that this sense of self is something permanent, something worth defending at all costs. Yet more than 2,000 years ago, the Buddha offered a teaching so bold, so radically different from the way we live, that it challenges everything we think we know about ourselves. He revealed that the self we so passionately protect is, in reality, nothing more than an illusion. This idea of me, the mental picture we hold, the story we tell about who we are, is not a solid, unchanging truth. It is simply a collection of thoughts, memories, beliefs, and attachments woven together by the mind. And when we cling to this bundle of illusions, we unknowingly invite suffering into our lives. Today, let us journey into the Buddha's profound wisdom about the ego and the illusion of the self, and see how understanding this truth can open the door to real, unshakable freedom. The Buddha's teaching of Anatta, the doctrine of no self, can feel unsettling when we first hear it. He taught that there is no permanent, unchanging self within us. What we think of as I or me is not a fixed entity, but a constantly shifting flow of experiences, sensations, and feelings. The belief that there is a self that remains exactly the same through time is a creation of the mind, a convenient story it tells to create a sense of stability. But when we cling to that story, we create immense suffering for ourselves. We begin to see ourselves as separate from the world around us, as isolated individuals with firm boundaries. Yet when we look deeply, we notice that nothing about us remains still. Our emotions rise and fall. Our thoughts come and go like clouds across the sky. Even our bodies, which we often believe are the most stable part of us, are constantly changing, cell by cell, breath by breath. Why then do we cling so fiercely to this idea of a fixed self? The Buddha explained that it is born from fear, fear of impermanence, fear of losing control, and fear of becoming nothing at all. But the truth is, when we release this illusion, something extraordinary happens. We realize that we are not separate from life. We are woven into it, inseparable from all beings and all things. And in that realization, a deep and natural freedom arises. The ego is not a single permanent object that lives inside us. It is a collection of stories, roles, and labels we give ourselves. I'm a student. I'm a businessman. I'm a failure. I'm a success. These labels, whether they describe our work, our nationality, our family history, or even our mistakes, become the building blocks of our identity. We attach to them so tightly that we begin to believe, this is who I am. But if we observe carefully, we see that these labels are temporary. Our roles in life shift, our circumstances evolve, our perspectives change. The way we saw ourselves yesterday is not quite the way we see ourselves today, and it will not be the way we see ourselves tomorrow. The more tightly we hold to these identities, the more suffering we create. We separate ourselves from others. We build invisible walls around our lives. We forget that who we truly are cannot be reduced to a job title, a memory, or a moment in time. In reality, we are not a fixed shape, but a dynamic, ever-changing flow of life. One of the Buddha's most powerful teachings is that suffering arises from attachment. The more we cling to our ego, to our desires, to our possessions, and even to our relationships, the more pain we create for ourselves. Why? Because nothing in this world is permanent. People change, situations shift, things wear out, break, or are lost. When we tie our sense of self to something external, a role, a relationship, an achievement, we set ourselves up for inevitable disappointment. We may believe, if I get this, I'll be happy. If people approve of me, I'll feel secure. But these are fleeting conditions, and when they slip away, as they always do, we feel empty. Yet the Buddha reminds us, this emptiness is not who we are. It is simply the echo of clinging to something that was never truly ours to keep. Imagine for a moment, if we could loosen our grip, if we could accept that all things, all people, all experiences are impermanent, if we could love without needing to possess, if we could live without needing to control, the suffering born of ego would begin to fade away. We would no longer depend on the outside world to define us. Instead, we would rest in a deeper, quieter peace, one that does not vanish when circumstances change. How then can we free ourselves from the grip of the ego? The Buddha's answer was both simple and profound: mindfulness. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can observe our thoughts, our emotions, and our sensations without clinging to them. We simply notice them as they arise, stay for a while, and pass away. When we practice this awareness, we stop believing every thought we think. We stop identifying with every feeling that visits us. We begin to see thoughts as just thoughts, feelings as just feelings, passing events in the wide open space of the mind. With practice, we realize that the ego is not a fixed self, but a shifting pattern, and we can let go of our attachment to it. In doing so, we begin to discover something far deeper, our true nature, untouched by labels and unaffected by change. Ultimately, the Buddha's path to enlightenment is the path of transcending the ego. When we stop clinging to the self, we see clearly that we are not separate from the whole of existence. We are part of a vast, interconnected flow of life. The more we practice non-attachment, the more we move in harmony with life's natural rhythm. We stop fighting against change. We stop holding on to what cannot be held. And in this surrender, we find peace, contentment, and liberation. True freedom is not about gaining or achieving. It is about releasing the need to control. It is about trusting the present moment and allowing life to unfold exactly as it is. When we live this way, life stops feeling like a constant struggle and becomes something beautiful to experience. The Buddha's teaching on the ego invites us to look inward and question everything we think we know about ourselves. By recognizing the illusion of the self, we can loosen our attachments, step beyond the labels that confine us, and live in a state of greater compassion, clarity, and joy. If you find yourself holding on tightly to an idea of who you are, remember this: real freedom begins the moment you let go. When we stop defining ourselves by thoughts, labels, and external things, we become lighter, freer, and more alive. The path to freedom is a journey, one step, one breath at a time. So be gentle with yourself. Release what no longer serves you, and allow the peace that is already within you to rise to the surface.